So today we're going to be carving a bit of a Valentine gnome, and it's based off of the itty-bitty kind of rough out shape, and that's what we have here to start with. The itty-bitty originated right here, this little guy, which was from April of 2021. You can see it's got the same basic shape and the look. So after I did this, then 4th of July rolled around and I did an Uncle Sam version of the Itty Billy. And then the next thing you know, it was football season. And so this little guy came along. He's got his little football helmet on there. And then, of course, after football season, it was time for Thanksgiving. So made these two little guys, little itty-bitty pilgrims, more or less, that you can see. This one has a little different look because the carving was basically carved on the corner, so you can see that there's a different way that the hat is oriented, different shape. And then, of course, right after that, Thanksgiving runs right into Christmas. And then came Itty Bitty Santa. This was kind of fun to work on. This little part of the hat right here, that was really kind of fun. I enjoyed doing that a lot. And so here we are now, ready for Valentine's Day. And we will make ourselves a little bit of a gnome and some modifications on the basic Itty Bitty. This is less of a hillbilly and more of a gnome. And if you have not watched the previous Itty Bitty tutorial, which gives you this basic rough out shape, this will get you to the different dimensions for the feet, the hat, the nose, the beard and hair, and all of that. I'll put a link at the top of the screen for you right now. You can check out that video, watch the first part of it. It gives you all of the measurements. This is basically 1 by 1 square and 2 1/4 tall. And also will give you the tutorial that will bring you to this roughed out shape. All right? Let me get my glove on and we'll get started. So I've already gotten to the point where I've brought this hat back on the front and further in the back. So I would say at the top right here, we have maybe about 1/4 inch, right? About 6 mils. And on this gnome, we're going to put a heart right here on this hat. And we'll start with a V-tool. So unlike the Itty Bitty, we're going to use some specialized tools today. And there are a number of ways that you can make this heart. What I'm showing you today is what I did in the original Valentine Gnome. And that was sort of an inlaid look. So for that, I'm going to take this V-tool and I'm going to put the point of the V right here on my center line. And I'll make that V shape, and that will give me the bottom of the heart. So I got that on the center. I'm going to bring it down a little lower. Just want to get it positioned where I think that heart should be. Then I'm going to give myself a cut here with the V-tool. See, I've got more depth on one side than the other. We'll give it another press on the other side. Okay. Next step will be using a gouge. So I have a number 9 gouge. And I'm just going to take that gouge and touch one edge of the V-tool mark with one side and then bring the other part over to my center line. This will give me a lobe of the heart. And I'll come over to the other side, do the same thing, touch where my V tool was, and bring that other part to the center line. And very quickly, we have ourselves a heart shape. So, relatively easy. Now I'm probably going to just go over this with my knife here for a second, get my thumb guard on before I do that. And just clean up this line right here. And right there. Now to do the inlaid heart, it really does require some special tools. It's not an easy thing. If you wanted to do this easier, you could just wood burn the heart shape, or you could have the heart raised above the rest of the material. What I mean is make your cuts for the heart and then take away the material around it so the heart is actually, I guess it's more embossed, let's call it, right? But for this example, we're going to do the inlaid version, which means we're going to take the material out from the inside of that heart. Right here we have a little triangle opportunity at the base of the heart, so I'm just going to put some depth in there with these cuts. Come in here with my knife and see about removing that triangle. There we go. Now, to make it a little easier on myself to work around these other gouge cuts, these semicircles, I do have some other tools that I will bring out. But first, we'll just see what we can do with the knife. And you may find that you'll be able to do all of it with a knife. I guess the most difficult part is to get down to a level where you have a nice flat and level interior there. In other words, you don't have a bumpy looking heart. Okay, so you can see I've pretty much gotten most of the material out of there, but I'm going to use a little micro skew to get that leveled out. And you could do this probably with a small chisel, and that's more or less what a skew is. Let me grab that. This is a dockyard micro skew. So I'm just going to come in here with that skew and work my way across the grain with it. This is going to help me level out that interior surface. So as I said, this is definitely more difficult than the other methods that I mentioned to you, right? You could very easily wood burn a heart shape and then paint on the heart. You could even skip the wood burn part and just paint the heart onto the hat. That's always an option. But I want to show you this method because if you have the tools, this can look kind of cool when you're done to have that sort of embossed heart shape into the hat. Just working that skew around the shape. Okay, So I think you get the basic idea there. I'll clean that up later, but that's how we do that inlaid heart look. The other major modification that we have on this gnome is the face. Unlike the itty billies, this guy does not have a mustache, so we have more of his face that's going to show. And we'll also have a little different look to the beard because of that. So let's get the pencil. Sort of pencil in what we want to do with the mouth and beard look. So our nose is still roughed in here. We have some work to do. I usually come down about a 1/4 inch from the bottom of the nose and just make a mark. Then I come up to the side of the nose where the bottom is. Equivalent to the bottom, I'll make a dot a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch out from the nose. Same thing on the other side. And then it's just a matter of connecting the dots. To get ourselves a nice smile. Now we want to have a little slanted line at the corners here, like this. And what we'll do with our beard on this little guy is we'll bring a line around here like this. Like I said, we're going to have more of the face showing because this is more of a gnome look. Okay? Something like that. Okay? And we'll go ahead and start on that by finishing up that nose. So I'm just going to take off the corners. We're going to look for sort of an oval shape on this nose. And don't forget the top corners, right? Okay, and then we're going to just basically come around that top and bevel that angle to go around the nose, just like that. Same thing on the other side. Just going to give it a bevel. And at the top, we want to give ourselves at least a little bit of a beveled edge across the top of that nose. Not too much now. You want to leave part of that nose touching the brim of the hat. Okay. So you got a booger in his nose here. Hang on a second. There we go. All right, we have our basic nose there. It's a little crooked. That's okay. Some noses are, right? Sometimes you start trying to fix it and you make it worse. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and put in that mouth. Easy way to do that is start at the corner. Get the tip of that knife in there. Stab. Same thing on this side. Tip of the knife. And stab. And then we're basically going to follow our line and make a stop cut more or less right up into that corner. Same thing on this side. We'll just start here in the center, bring our line all the way up to the corner, like that. Now all we do is just come under there and slice up to it. And take ourselves a little sliver of wood to get that mouth shape. We'll just slice up into this corner for a second. There we go. So one of the things you can do, just to give any of your features more depth and shadow, clean this up, is to just run your blade back over the cut. What I mean by that is, you're just taking your blade, putting it down into that cut, and just following along. The purpose here, like I said, is just to create more shadow. Yeah. All right, so that gives us some more shadow. Let's go ahead and cut in the rest of the face to establish the beard. All right, we'll just start up here, right at the base of the hat, and follow our line. All the way back up. And we'll get up under here and bring that down. All right, so now what we'll want to do is remove away some of the material from the inside of our line, the face part, so that the beard is higher than the face, okay? So we'll just come back to the cut we made and slice away some of the wood, take out some of that material, right? We're establishing the beard and the face at the same time. Maybe you saw that knife slip right there. That's why I wear a glove, folks. It can happen. It doesn't give you any warning either, unfortunately. So very easily, we have kind of gone in there and established the gap there between that face and the beard. I'm going to put in a couple of lines for cheeks. So I'm going to come up here next to the nose and just curve a small line, a little stop cut like that. And I'm going to come at it from the other direction. And there we go, popped out. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just going to come up to the base of the nose, cut a small little curve, and get that to pop out too. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and finish up these feet. The shoes are about a 1/4 inch square on the front. I'm just going to start rounding those. course, we want to remove those corners. And then we'll just work our knife up a little bit and across the top. All right, let's work on this other shoe. All right, and now let us go up and begin working on that beard. So with the Billy, I did everything with one knife, this knife right here. But we're going to be using a variety of tools today, like I said. So we'll grab ourselves this gouge again. And we'll just start making shapes into this beard. And wherever you can, you want to kind of curve your shapes. Avoid the straight lines. Unless, of course, you're doing a flat plane carving. Straight lines are great. Come around here on the side. Just making interesting shapes. Yeah. All right. So now let's just switch it up a little bit. I'll grab my soft V, which is very similar to the kind of mark you get from maybe a 3mm gouge, and just continue this work. All right, I think we've got a pretty good base of just shapes. Go back to my V tool now and give it even more. And again, we want to, wherever we can, make curved lines. Now, you could also come back in here with your knife and make some more shapes, make some interesting knife cuts. And maybe we'll do that. And one more here. What you really want to avoid is leaving these sort of flat spaces. You don't want to have any just plain uncarved areas in the middle of the beard. Again, if you were using a flat plain style, that would be a different thing. All right. So while we're here, let's go ahead and grab the knife. And we'll make some little knife cuts here. So the downside to wearing a glove is not having the same grip, not having the same dexterity that you would normally have, right? If you weren't wearing a glove. There's a trade-off. For me, I'm better off with a glove on. Just knowing me. Not that I carve like I'm in a hurry. That's not happening. But yeah. I don't want to have stitches again. And there's no guarantee, folks, that the glove is going to prevent that. There are plenty of people who, while wearing a glove, have injured themselves to the point where they needed stitches. It does give you some protection, but it can't protect against everything. Just continuing with some knife cuts here. Again, to add a little more interest, break things up a little bit. And we'll do some here. Now with the hair, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's more uniform than the beard. So we'll use our V tool, and we'll just come up and give ourselves some fairly uniform lines. Now you could, if you want to, use the same approach that we used on the beard. What I mean by that is you could use a variety of different tools to make shapes, give the hair more texture and shape if you want to. It's, you know, it's your carving. Do it your way. Make it yours. But whatever you do, have fun, right? That's what it's all about. All right, why don't we work on this hat? So we'll go ahead and start shaping. Putting in a notch over here on this side. Just going to come in here on an angle with my knife. And take out a notch. Come onto the back side at the same height. Give it an angle. Take out that notch. I'm just going to connect those with my knife here. Give it a good wiggle. Press down. And then I'm going to come above that and slice down to it. Just like that. I want to make it larger, so I'm just going to work at it from both angles till I've got the size and the shape that I'm looking for. Before you know it, you'll have a nice little notch there, sort of what we would think of as a wrinkle in the hat. And this is an unusual carving because it does have some sort of stylistic parts that you would see with a flat plane carving. This hat, for example, is very flat. Okay, so I want more angle from the bottom here. I'm going to rework that angle. And bring this back up a little bit. Yeah. That's the angle that I like right there. All right, so now I want to give myself a nice curved area over here. To do that, first thing I'll do is just come onto this edge and slice through it with sort of a scoop. Same thing on the front. Give it a scoop. And then I'll come right down the center. And we'll just continue with a scooping cut. So with this, it's a slice, but we're also twisting this blade, all right? Because we want to get this shape to be curved. So we'll just work on it a little while until we get there. Slicing and scooping, just like this. It's getting there, isn't it? It's very satisfying, isn't it, when you're working on a carving and you have a nice piece of wood and a sharp blade. For me, it's much more enjoyable than power carving. I have a Dremel. I don't really use it a lot. I use it more as a tool for doing other things, but not really for carving. Nothing against power carving. There are some amazing power carvers. It's just for me, it's not really as zen as taking a sharp blade and slicing through a piece of wood. Right? There's a lot more sound, noise, what have you, dust, dirt, vibration, but you can do some amazing things with a Dremel. Okay, I think I've got the curve that I was looking for. right there. Now, I want to create this top notch. So you can see the original itty billy and the shape we had going there. So I'll just come up here on the edge, give myself a little notch on the front, right there. And we'll come back to the back side here. Let's clean that up. And at the same height on the corner, wiggle that blade, slice up to it, and then make them connect. Okay, I'm just going to start working this back on an angle, this side here. Take off the corners, work it back. And when I say take off the corners, I'm not really making it round. I'm just working the angle back. I'm still going to have a flat surface with a corner when I'm done. If you want it rounded, you can do rounded. Those pilgrims that I showed you, right? This little guy has a rounded hat. I'm just trying to get a shape here that that I'm looking for, and that's basically the look. I'm just angling this. And while we do this, you know, we're bringing out this little top piece a little more by removing the material underneath it. And just pay attention to where your heart is. You don't want to break your heart. I had to say it. Sorry. All right. Now you've noticed probably that I haven't touched the brim yet. That's because that brim is going to be very fragile. We don't want to be putting our thumb or any kind of pressure on the brim while we're doing the other parts of the hat. So we do the other parts of the hat first, and then we save the brim and work on that last. Okay. All right, I think that I like the angle. So now what I want to do is take this top part, and I want that to be curved as well. Just like the original Itty Billy. See that curve at the top of his hat? So the way to do that, and it's pretty simple. I'm going to come over on this edge and scoop like that. Same thing on this side. Scoop cut. And then take out that center. And this again is a scoop. This is a paring cut though. Pardon me a moment. I have a little bit of a phone interruption. All right. Thank you, Sonny. Anyway, I was saying this is a paring cut. It's a paring cut because it's that cut where we're slicing towards that thumb. We want to be careful, always. And remember, just use your hand, not your whole arm. All right, so it's a paring cut, but we're scooping at the same time, which means I'm turning that blade to get that curvature. That's what we have to do. Take your time. This is not something you have to be in a rush to do. Just get that blade to curve a little bit. You can come at it from both sides if you want to. Until you get the curve that you're looking for. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's a curve all right. Yeah, I might actually even, nah, I'll leave it. There we go. Now the brim. So for the brim, all I'm really going to do is come down here near the base, just up from the very bottom, and I'm going to slice up like this and remove material. Like I said, it doesn't take much to break that brim. It's thin. So you have to be aware of that. So you can see I'm basically just slicing right up to a stop cut here to get the look I want. I'm going on an angle. And that's what we're going to do. We'll just work our way around this hat and put in the brim. That'll be the last part that we do today. So again, get down here low, angle up. So my thoughts are on these itty billies. You know, we can have itty billies for all seasons, or gnomes, however we like to think about them. And I'll probably do one of these little guys for St. Patrick's Day as well, which is right around the corner. Won't be long. Now, normally what I would prefer to do when I'm carving one of these little guys is to have them still connected to a block of wood. It gives me more material to grip onto than what I'm doing today. This is a little more difficult and more challenging because you don't have much to hold on to while you're trying to carve. But yeah, I would like to have him still connected to a block of wood. Go ahead and carve it, and then just go to the bandsaw and separate him from the block. Same is true when I'm working on those little angels. You may have seen on my website here on YouTube, I've got some carving tutorials of angels, and they're small. And it really is more beneficial for me anyway, to have those connected to a block of wood while I'm working on them. And then just separate them after. Okay, well, I think all we have left now is the front side of this hat brim. Let's move on. Yeah. And on the front, we have a little bit of a curve here over the top of that nose. So we'll just bring a line up here, connect it to the other side. And we'll get our knife on an angle and slice up to it. Same thing over here. And we'll get into that center part. So while we're doing this here, let me just give a shout out real quickly to Ron Gableman over at Basswood Carving. Recently recorded a video with Ron for his channel, which is at Basswood Carving right here on YouTube. Go ahead and check out Ron's channel, subscribe, and look at his videos while you're there. He's got a lot of carvings that are great for anyone who wants to learn more about carving. Well, okay, folks, I think what we've got there is the basic Valentine Gnome, and we're almost there, Valentine's Day. You could also, of course, use a little gnome like this as a gift for any time, for anyone, right? It's cute little carving with a heart, and that fits a lot of occasions. Thanks for joining me today, folks. We'll see you next time.